Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly break down the key themes in Arsenal's 1-0 win over Brighton. When we break down the game and we do look at the board, we have Arsenal in a 4-2-3-1 and Brighton in a 4-4-2. So first, we're going to see how both sides look to approach the game out of possession on the board, and then we'll look to a few examples and break down how Arsenal were able to get into key attacking areas. When we look at Brighton, they dropped off into two banks of four, and what ended up happening was that Arsenal often had either Elneny or Xhaka splitting the center backs, or dropping into the inside left and right positions to pick up the ball to form a back three. That often left the spare central midfielder in between the two Brighton center forwards, and this would allow Arsenal's fullbacks to push forward. When we look at the midfield battle, it was often Gross stepping towards Elneny, and then you had Bissouma dealing with Smith Rowe. So that would leave Xhaka as the spare man in that inside left position. But in Brighton's 4-4-2, Proper would tuck in narrow two-step to the Arsenal central midfielder, and that would allow Tierney to push forward to occupy Veltman. That often left Martinelli in that gap between Veltman and Webster. Aubameyang was occupying the center backs, and over on the right-hand side, you had Saka pushing Burn narrow, and then Bellerin pushing forward to peg back Bernardo. Ultimately, Arsenal struggled to create chances in that opening half, and their clear attacking threat was down the wider areas where they were looking to get the better of Veltman and Burn, who are Brighton's weak points. Tierney did push forward to take on Veltman and Proper towards the byline, but his crosses weren't able to connect with his teammates. Meanwhile, over on the right-hand side, there were some promising combination plays. For instance, there was a time where Bellerin brought down Marty's diagonal ball ahead of Bernardo, and Saka was positioned ahead of Burn, and Bellerin slid the ball to Saka and immediately runs off Bernardo for the quick 1-2, but Saka's pass beyond Burn for Bellerin was short, and Bernardo was able to recover position. And if we look to another example, there was a time where Smith Rowe received Holding's pass and was about to take his touch across Bernardo, with Bellerin darting into the right channel across Gross and Saka occupying Burn. Smith Rowe ended up sliding the ball across Bernardo and Gross for Bellerin down the right channel, with Saka, Aubameyang, and Martinelli making runs towards the box. When Bellerin received the ball in the right channel, he has four options around the Arsenal penalty area, but he focused on Martinelli's run between the Brighton center backs. However, Bellerin's delivery at the front post bypassed Martinelli running across Dunk, and Webster easily cleared the lines. Meanwhile, when we look to Arsenal out of possession, it was pretty straightforward. Aubameyang would press the center back on the ball, and then we would see Martinelli and Saka adopting a narrow position by stepping towards the spare center back and blocking off the passing lane in towards their fullback. If that wasn't the case, you would see Martinelli and Saka stepping towards Veltman and Burn. And then in that midfield zone, we did see variations as to how Arsenal were going about their business in regards to their press. For instance, there was a time where you ended up seeing Aubameyang shifting to Webster, and you have Smith Rowe stepping to Gross, Xhaka towards Bissouma, while Saka and Martinelli were ready to shoot out towards Veltman and Burn. And if we look to another example, you could see Xhaka on Proper, Smith Rowe leaving Bissouma, but blocking off the passing lane into his feet when he steps towards Webster, with Martinelli ahead of Veltman and Saka narrow near Gross. When the ball shifts to Veltman, that forces Martinelli to step and Tierney to push to Proper, with Saka tucking in narrow on Gross, and the ball goes back to Sanchez, who has to smash it long. But ultimately, Arsenal were very good in these situations, because with Smith Rowe stepping towards Bissouma, that left Elneny and Xhaka to deal with Gross, and then the other spare midfielder was able to sit in the center of the pitch to close down free space. But what ended up happening was that when Proper would tuck in narrow, then Xhaka would step to him, and then Arsenal were 3v3 in that midfield zone. But ultimately, Arsenal improved in this game towards the second half when Brighton looked to push a few men forward, and then we ended up seeing a lot of combination plays between the fullbacks and Smith Rowe and Saka out in the wider areas to exploit space behind Burn and Veltman. When we look to the first example, you witness Smith Rowe receiving the ball in space ahead of a late stepping Bissouma, with Martinelli immediately running beyond Veltman and Saka yards behind Gross. Smith Rowe slides the ball across Bissouma for Martinelli, who now has space to run at Webster. Martinelli carries the ball into Brighton's half with Webster dropping off, and that's when you see Saka continuing his run between both center backs into the left channel. When Saka receives Martinelli's pass in the left channel, he carries the ball towards the box beyond Webster, and we could see Aubameyang breaking towards the 6-yard box across Burn. And when Saka delivers a low ball across both Brighton center backs into the 6-yard box for Aubameyang, he receives a point-blank effort chance, but he is denied by Sanchez. Shortly after that, it's Tierney stepping into Proper's touch and Martinelli letting the ball roll across his body to spin away from Veltman to break down the left channel, and you could see Smith Rowe ahead of Bissouma. When Martinelli breaks beyond Veltman, he ends up splitting Webster and Bissouma for Smith Rowe running beyond Bissouma, and this is where Aubameyang spins away from Webster to break down the left channel. This is where we see Smith Rowe carrying the ball into Brighton's half and sliding the ball between the center backs for Aubameyang to break into the box. But when Aubameyang breaks into that zone in a 1v1 with Dunk, we witness Webster shifting over to recover, but even in Aubameyang's prime goal-scoring position, he ends up bending his effort wide of the net. Around the hour mark, we witness Bellerin clipping the ball over Bernardo into the right channel for Saka running off Burn. When Saka clearly beats Burn in a foot race to Bellerin's ball into the right channel, you have Aubameyang ahead of the Brighton center backs as his sole option near the box. Saka breaks into right half space with an Aubameyang pullback available as the Arsenal striker holds his run and the Brighton center backs drop into the 6-yard box. However, Saka takes an extra touch into that zone, which enables Dunk to cover enough ground to block the pullback attempt to Aubameyang. In the build-up to Arsenal's winner, you witness Holding bypassing McAllister to split Bernardo and Gross for Saka dropping into his own half to drag out Burn. When Saka receives Holding's pass, he easily spins across Burn's pressure towards Brighton's half, with Lacazette beginning to push forward ahead of Dunk and Webster. Saka breaks towards the Brighton box beyond Burn, and you could see the center backs retreating to the box with aim to block any delivery into Aubameyang peeling off Veltman towards the back post. But here, Saka does well to pick out an unmarked Lacazette following the Brighton center backs dropping towards the 6-yard box, and he receives enough time and space to put Arsenal ahead. With Lacazette replacing Martinelli, that meant that Aubameyang shifted to the left side of the pitch, and here he had some great combination play with Tierney and Lacazette. First, we see Tierney receiving the ball on the left touchline to pull out Veltman, and you can see Aubameyang moving laterally across Webster as a passing option. Tierney ends up playing a quick 1-2 with Aubameyang and runs off Veltman towards the Brighton box, which results in the Arsenal striker splitting Webster and Veltman. When Tierney receives Aubameyang's pass and breaks towards the box, he has Lacazette running off Dunk and Saka ahead of Burn. However, even with Lacazette's run taking Dunk out of the game, Tierney's pullback for Saka running across Burn resulted in his shot being blocked. And when we look to one final example, it's Tierney splitting Veltman and Bissouma for Lacazette dropping off Webster, and to his right is an unmarked Aubameyang in the left channel. Lacazette slides a first-time ball around Webster for Aubameyang breaking into left half space, but also focus on Smith Rowe making an unmarked run towards the box. Aubameyang breaks into left half space with Webster shifting across for cover, and Dani Ceballos is breaking into the box ahead of Burn and Dunk. This leaves vacant space in right half space for Smith Rowe's late run. Aubameyang, however, overhit his dinked ball into right half space, and Smith Rowe was forced to carry the ball backwards. Hi everybody, thanks for watching, and subscribe here for your latest tactical analysis and daily commentary on the InnerViews show. And if that wasn't enough, don't forget you could find more organic, unfiltered soccer/football analysis on the InnerViews podcast, the best soccer/football podcast in the world, available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and any Android apps on your Android devices.